just 50 days.
Meet the Iron Cowboy, and he's very tired that you are fighting through. They say he once wore a cowboy hat in the crowd of athletes, and the name stuck.
It's named pretty much impossible. Yeah, terrifying. He said he approached me, and I said, I don't think we can do it.
He said his chance is crazy.
The first 2 days were really chaotic. They put on my shoes. So everybody wears like these smaller shoes. Hey, I wear a hat. In your green house, 48 hours, and then 200 mans and 5 hours of sleep.
When my brain is gone, that was what he said.
James said he can't feel his legs. He'd sit down to his sleep. It was so crazy to watch. 1, 2, snore. You do 1, 2, 3 snoring on a bike, you crash. And all of a sudden he's like, I can't do this. I stopped chasing society's dream. And I went after my dreams. This is what we as human beings can actually do. We'll never triumph in heaven. It's hard. There's a finish line to all of this. You just gotta get through today. It's awesome. We'll be there, everybody waiting for you. There we are.
Always. Don't be ready to die.
I'm going to share with you guys a real quick story that's very, very dear to my heart. My grandmother, her name is Lily Dingwall, and she was actually born in Poland and immigrated to Canada back in the, I don't know, way a long time ago. And she wanted to be different than everybody else. She wanted to be successful in life. She wanted to have impact on people. And she found network marketing. And I was just so impressed. She's actually one of my greatest inspirations. And she is the reason of the mindset, the belief systems that I have today. And she worked this industry until into her 90s because she loved it so much. And with one company the entire career, and impacted my life in such a profound way that I'm so thrilled for each and every single one of you that you are sitting here today and your futures are so incredibly bright, because I have had a front row seat to what this industry can do. So congratulations. Now, my name is James Lawrence, and the public calls me the Iron Cowboy. And it's a stupid nickname because I'm allergic to horses and hay. But you know, Ironman racing, it's the least friendly spectator sport on the planet. And when I first started racing, I had those 5 little children. And they would often miss me on the race course because we kind of blended in and we were focused on what we were doing. So one of my daughters, she says, Dad, you should wear a cowboy hat and we'll see you coming down the road. And so I started to wear this cowboy hat, and then the public started to call me the Iron Cowboy. And it's just been an unbelievable kind of trademark, and we've had a lot of fun with it. But I actually grew up here in the United States. I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. 3 of you, thank you. All right, there we go. Now, does anybody here know what Calgary might be world famous for? Stampede, my guy. All right, Calgary Stampede. For those of you that don't know, the Calgary Stampede is one of the largest rodeos in the entire world. It is 10 days long. The city shuts down, and it is a huge party. It is rides, it's foods, it's chuck wagon races, concerts, fireworks, and I got to go to the Cowboy Stampede every single year growing up. Well, I'm in my early 20s, and I am trying to figure out who I want to be. What do I want to become? What type of legacy do I want to leave? And I was listening to the radio, and they announced this contest. And they said, we want to find out who can ride the giant Ferris wheel for the entire 10 days of the Stampede. And my undeveloped brain says, this is a great idea. I should get on the ride. And so I got on the ride, and I started to go round and round. And I was 3 days into this, and I'm watching people quit and get off. And it took me years to recognize what was happening. They were losing the conversation they were having with themselves. They literally weren't comfortable sitting there in silence. And since then to now, it's gotten worse. We now live in a day and age where it's 8-second dopamine hits, right? And I also recognized that they were sitting in a space where they were worrying about a future. They hadn't forgiven themselves for the past. And they just weren't comfortable sitting there. So I'm on this Ferris wheel now, and I'm 7 days into the 10-day contest. And my mom shows up. She's on the ground to support me. And I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. She made me a sign. And when I got closer to the ground, I could read the sign. And this sign said this. It said, James, you got fired from your job. And so I was like, okay, I need to sit on this Ferris wheel for 3 more days because I'm now unemployed and I'm already broke. Long story short, I won the Ferris wheel contest. Thank you. Yeah, I hitchhiked the ride from Calgary to Utah, where I then stole my wife from Buck, and we're celebrating 25 years of marriage this year. We've got 5 children. Yeah. And the best news of all I want to share with you guys is we just became grandparents. And we got a 3-month-old boy at home or in the area, and then my second oldest daughter is going to give us twin boys in December. So, man, we are so excited. Now, what you guys just witnessed was the promo to the documentary of those 50 days, 50 Ironmans, 50 states, and it changed my life. And I didn't know speaking and this kind of thing was a real thing until we did that, and people were like, we have to hear the story. That's just crazy. And then I also got these other phone calls to do very difficult challenges around the world. They wanted to bring me back down, right? Isn't it interesting once we establish ourselves as something, society wants to tear you down and bring you back to their level. And I kept saying no to those because I was enjoying this new career that I was doing, helping people win the conversations they were having with themselves. And I kept saying no. And then I got this phone call from Africa, and they said, we want you to come climb our mountain. And I was like, wow, I don't climb mountains. And then they're like, no. This is Mount Kilimanjaro. This is 20,000 feet in the air. You have to come climb it. And again, I said, no, thank you. And then they said, we know you'd like to be the first person ever to do something that nobody else has ever done. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool to say you're one of 8 billion people. And then they said this, we want to invite you to come to Africa and ride your bike to the top. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why would I do that? And then, of course, I found myself in Africa trying to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Instantly regretted this decision. There's only one way to get to the top, and it's straight up. And the higher you go, the less oxygen there is. And so now my legs are burning, my heart is pounding, lungs expanding. But we make it to base camp, 12,500 feet. And I was sitting there, and I could hear a group, and they were talking about the accomplishment and the summit and the view from the top. And so I went over and I started to talk to them. And you can only imagine the emotion I had after I started to complain about how bad my leg hurt when I looked down and I realized that she only has one leg. There's a moment where you have an absolute paradigm shift in your life, and you recognize that, man, we have no idea when something's going to be taken away from us. To appreciate every single moment, whether we have a lot or we have lack. I made a promise to myself in that moment I was going to wake up the following day, and regardless of the terrain, the difficulty, the altitude, the boulders, I was going to put a smile on my face, and we were going to summit Mount Kilimanjaro. And we did just that. And we were the first group to summit on bikes. Thank you. And as I was standing there, trying to take in the undescribable view from 20,000 feet looking over all of Africa, I thought back to the same group of veterans. And in that group was another gentleman. He was completely blind. He couldn't see what I was seeing. His eyesight was taken in battle. Yet he was so happy to be there because he was alive, having experiences. I've now had an opportunity to travel around the world and share this story in over 50 countries. And the number one question I get is, how do I become more mentally tough? How do I develop that same amount of persistence and resilience? It's only through showing up and having experiences that you can do that. And I found this quote and I love it. It says, there's only one time that's important, and the time is now. And it's the most important time because it's truly the only time we have any power. And if we're watching society today, everybody's so worried about the future, anxiety, not forgiving themselves for their past, depression. The solution is right here, right now, where our feet are planted. Because again, we have no idea if tomorrow's going to be guaranteed or when something's going to be taken away from us. So now, my mission in life is to say yes to everything that scares me. Say yes to everything that makes me feel uncomfortable. I look back at my entire career and it's the moments that I said yes to that have changed my life, that have shaped me into who I am today. I got a phone call and they said, James, do you want to fly an F-16 jet? And I was like, no, I don't. That sounds terrible. And everybody here has probably been in an airplane. You know how long it goes from takeoff to 30,000 feet? I'm going to share with you guys a quick video. Take off to 20,000 feet, 7 G's of force in just 15 seconds.
We're going to count for 60 feet. Start rolling out.
Okay, you guys can't see my face, but my eyeballs are this big. I am freaking out. I'm plugged into the jet. As we hit the 7 G's of force, the suit is compressing, sending blood to my brain so I don't pass out. I'm trying to learn the breathing pattern they taught me in the 15-minute tutorial I got on how to participate in this event. And man, if you can hear the pilot, it's like he's having a Sunday dinner conversation with somebody. But I'll tell you what, I recognize in that moment, Homeboy's the expert. And he has put in thousands of hours to be that. In fact, he's communicating with another group of experts on the ground. And together, they were collaborative and they were the experts. And it allowed me to calm down and enjoy that experience. But I quickly realized that we live in a unique day and age. There's so much good, but there's a lot of bad, and it's called social media. And I've watched my 5 children try to navigate this space. And I'm watching people fearful of doing something new for the first time. Being the newest member to a community. We're scared to not be the expert on day number 1. That judgment, that ridicule for not being the best. There's people in this room right now, this is your first time in this community, and there's experts. Those experts started out where you are and felt exactly how you're feeling, and it's okay. Every journey has a humble beginning. I'm embarrassed to put this on the screen. This is a picture of me, my very first ever triathlon. I'm learning how to swim. I borrowed a bike. I'm gripping to the edge of the pool, gasping for air. I look like an idiot wearing this nose plug. And nobody looks at this person this moment and says, hey, that's the guy. I hadn't broken any world records. I was the newest member of that community. But it changed my life, and I'm so glad I had the courage to start. I went home that
I used
night.
to business that allowed me the power.
That's not part of my presentation. I went home that night, and on TV was the Ironman World Championships. I didn't know what this was. I heard the NBC announcer say, this is the hardest single day in sports. That got my attention. I'm like, what's the hardest day in sports? And he went on to describe that it's a 2.4-mile swim. It's followed by a 112-mile bike ride. And this finishes with a full marathon run, 26.2 miles, a total of 140.6 miles single day. I said, I just want to do one of those. That like fired me up. I want to know what that feels like. And so I found my race, I did my preparation, and when I got on site and into the water, I had no idea what was going to happen next. Imagine 2,000 athletes in the water. You're the athletes. You're sitting there ready to go. And when that gun goes off, you go into the swim position. You are instantly on top of your closest competitor. You get kicked in the face. You get punched in the mouth. You get swam over top of. In fact, on that day, in that moment, I got pulled down into the water. I had to figure out how to calm myself down, rise back up to the surface, and with intentionality start to navigate that chaos. Isn't that kind of like life we're experiencing right now? Like chaos all around us? It's now how you choose to navigate through that chaos, those moments. I got out of the water. I was so grateful. I found my bike. I started the bike. Going down the road, having so much fun, going as fast as I can. I had an experience at mile 80. As I was riding, I had a visitor come out and try to talk to me. The visitor was the bully inside my head. And he started to tell me how difficult the journey has been. How everybody else around me is better than I am. How much more difficult that journey is going to be. And in life, we listen to that bully inside of our head. We give it power. Life is about managing those moments, those bully conversations. In fact, early in my career, I was trying to silence the bully completely. I never wanted to hear from him again. Over time, my relationship has changed with the bully inside my head. He's my buddy now. If I haven't heard from the bully inside my head in a long enough period of time, it means I'm not showing up in my life. I'm not trying to have impact. I'm not trying to increase the value of everybody else around me. It's about learning how to manage that conversation, win those moments, and continue down the course. I won that moment, and I got to find my shoes, and I got to run that marathon, and I got to hear the words, "You are an Iron Man." And that changed my life. And I'm going to assume, this is an assumption, but I'm going to assume 99% of the people here are saying, why does anybody do this on purpose? If this is the result, what are we doing? Well, I am here confidently to tell you today it's not this moment. It's this one. And in this moment, everything goes away. The pain, the sacrifice, the energy, it all becomes worth it. I wanted to have that experience as often as I could. So I set out on a very unique journey to break 2 world records. Most half Ironmans anybody's ever done in a year, and then followed that up to tackle the full Ironman world record. The record at the time was 20 Ironmans, and I looked at my ability, my belief system, my thought process, my team, and I said, we can do 30 Ironmans to 11 countries. And we boldly made that announcement. The public came back and they said, you know, if you just did 21, it would be a new world record. And I was like, yeah, but there's the problem. We're so busy comparing ourselves to the current standard of excellence that we're actually limiting ourselves as to what is possible. I believed 30 was the new standard. I'm not trying to break records. I'm trying to set new standards. And just like any member of any new community, the world record community, I was new. I really didn't know what I was up against. And sometimes being naive about the process is a good thing. We set out on that journey, and I knew I was going to learn along the way. I was in Marble Falls, Texas, and the condition, okay, good, 2 Texans, good. The conditions were perfect. And so I jumped in the water, I swam the 2.4 miles, and when I got out, my buddy Tyrell was there. And he was cheering, he was yelling, he was going crazy, and I couldn't figure it out. As I got closer to him, he said this, he said, James, the leaders of the race, they just left. Grab your bike, go catch them. You could win today. And I'm like, bro, I'm not trying to win today. I got to do an Ironman next weekend. And he said this, just imagine how much your kids will love you if you win. And I'm like, they're 6. They want a Snickers bar, that's it. But he said it, he said the words, just imagine. Now when in our adult lives did we stop imagining? Think of your friends, your peers, your relatives, your family members. How many of them wake up every single day super fired up, ready to tackle the day? Versus how many of them show up every single day angry, annoyed, looking for excuses, checking the boxes. I guarantee it's that one over the initial one. And I didn't want to be part of that. So I got all fired up in that moment. I grabbed my bike, I passed an athlete, I passed another one. I took over the lead of this race. And I thought to myself, dude, I could pass this motorcycle too. I couldn't get him though, but we had a massive, huge lead. But at mile 100. I got the most intense cramp I've ever gotten in my life. It was my quad. I grabbed it, locked it with